All right, imagine someone telling you not to eat in a restaurant because the food is disgusting, and then you go to get something to eat and they're in the window with like food falling from their face, stuffing their mouths, right? Like that would be pretty hypocritical. And that's what I'm gonna do in this video.
When people worship me like people worship Mogamu. When people worship me like people worship Mogamu. When people worship me like people worship Mogamu.
You see, because honestly, if you were to ask me, and a lot of people have asked me because I've been streaming GodFall for about a week now, should they buy GodFall? My answer keeps being, I don't really think you should buy GodFall. Now, while I'm also telling people that I don't think they should buy GodFall, I'm also playing GodFall. That's what we do. Oh, we are going off. And we're going to finish him in the middle of that. Jesus God. Whoo. Finish him. Oh my God, that was the cleanest attack. And that makes me look like a huge hypocrite. So I'm gonna try to explain in this video why I'm not recommending the game just yet, while also playing it and enjoying it, right? Like that's making me look real bad, but it's gonna come down to a few things, and I'm gonna break each one down individually, right? The thing is, this game's beautiful. Like, this game looks very good. Now, it's supposed to be a PS5 launch title. I'm not playing it on PS5 because hashtag broke boy squad, but I am playing this on PC and it's gorgeous. Like the fidelity of it, bro. Like it's clear, it's crisp, the maps look good, the characters look amazing, reflections, particles. Like if anything, this game is one of the prettiest games I've played this year. Like it is really good looking. Now the downside of that, my PC likes it rough. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like me and my PC have a safe word, and a couple times my PC had to say the safe word, right? Because there were times where it just, the frame rate chugged. It was looking really good, and especially like when you just bonk an enemy on the nose with a big hammer or something, and particles and toxins, clouds, and just particle effects are flying everywhere. It's in that moment that my PC knew it was time to say the safe word, bro. So there were those moments where the game runs fairly well. And for the record, my PC is about a 3-year-old really good PC. We're talking 1080 Ti, right? So the game looks good. It functions good enough for like a third-person looter slasher thing. But there are times where it chugs to a halt. There's some freezing, there's some hitching, and mostly that does come in the middle of a combat scene where there are tons of things flying across the screen. Now, does that hurt the experience? No, I told you, I'm a hypocrite. Like, I'm sitting there like, beautiful screenshot, my dude. Like, I hit that dude with a hammer so hard, I got a Twitter screenshot, and I got a few seconds to take it because the game's frozen right there. So again, beautiful game, but it does hitch. Now, why am I telling you that I personally don't think you should buy GodFall just yet? Another reason. The story. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm coming from games like Warframe or Vanilla Destiny or even Diablo. All these looter games, like at some point, we don't expect these looter games to have an amazing story, right? Even Anthem, like we expected Anthem to somewhat have a story because of the development studio that it came from. But coming into this game, I didn't expect it. Like these shiny freaking knight-looking characters, a real focus on graphics, that type of thing. You're not expecting it. But let me tell you, it's worse. Anything that you expected from this story being bad, it's terrible. Like I'm like 5 or 6 hours in. I don't care about anything that's happening. Essentially, this is something that a third grader writes on a notepad when he's supposed to be doing this math homework, bro. Drawing little knight characters and coming up with a reason. So essentially the story is you play whatever this is, this guy Orin, who's some type of knight character, and you're trying to stop your brother from becoming a god. It doesn't really explain why your brother wants to become a god, really, or why you should even stop him, bro. That's your brother, bro. You're hating. Like, let the man become a god. You should be your brother's keeper, right? If your brother said, I want to become a god, you should support him, man. Like, buy a hat or something from his shop. Anyway, there's nothing that's really laid out. There are no real characters, no real character motivations, no story. Just kind of not really apply. You just kind of go around bashing things until more dialogue comes up. The thing I'm saying is, as bad as this is, it's worse than you can imagine it, right? Like, it's not cheesy bad. Like, it doesn't make you hate it, but it's not good if you're expecting a story. So don't expect a story at all. The next thing, and this is a big one because I've seen a ton of reviews kind of get this right, but I don't know. One of the big things about this is difficulty, right? Because this really leans into almost a Dark Souls-y feel, right? Like you're going to be doing missions and fighting bosses, and like the whole idea is that you're gonna die. Like you're probably gonna die a lot. The thing is, it almost seems like they built this game to be way more difficult, and then they realized, hey, we didn't really design this all that well, and then they made the easy and the normal mode so brain dead easy that you can't even really select it. Like, let me tell you without a doubt, do not play this on easy or normal. Like, it's so easy that it's bad. That's how easy it is. Like, if you aren't the type of person who likes difficult games, like if you aren't a Dark Souls player, I'm even telling you, it's so easy when you're not on the hard mode that you're going to hate yourself. Listen to me. Put it on the hard mode immediately as soon as you start the game, because the easy and normal mode is so easy, it doesn't even feel like a game. It feels like you're watching a TV show or something, right? But the difficulty is very hit or miss in that instance, because there's another thing. You get respawns. So for instance, the game is so easy that when you die, you immediately respawn and start the fight on the last set of enemies, right? Now that doesn't sound too bad, especially if you're not really looking for a difficult game. So I'm willing to give that a pass, but I'm gonna take that a step further. When you're fighting a boss, usually these bosses have 3 ticks of health, right? The lower, the middle, and the high health. And once you pass that threshold, if you die, the boss doesn't get that health back. Not even on difficult. So I'm telling you, on the difficult mode, the way they get around that is they give you 3 respawns, right? So let's say even on the most difficult version of this game, you only have to deal 33% damage to the boss to kill it with your 3 chances to kill it. And granted, some of the bosses are difficult enough, but it feels like it's, at this point, they've rebalanced the game around the fact that the game is so easy and the bosses are kind of weird and sometimes badly designed, that the difficult mode is just in the right spot where the game kind of makes sense. So again, do not play this on easy. It's not a good thing. But that does bring me to the combat. I'm torn here. And this is where I'm gonna be a hypocrite, right? So go ahead and get that thumbs down button going. I really like the combat. So the way the combat works is there are all these different elements, and they call them systems, but they're not. They're just, you know, gameplay elements that you're used to. Essentially, you have something called Soul Shatter, right? So every time you hit an enemy with your normal attack, it starts to deal Soul Shatter damage as a stat you can upgrade. And if you look at the health bar, the amount of health that you can chunk from the enemy by hitting him with your secondary attack will subtract that amount of health from it, right? So it becomes kind of a dance, right? You deal half health to an enemy, and then you bash him with your secondary attack and it kills him. The thing is, you can upgrade that, right? You can upgrade it to explode. You can upgrade it to deal damage around you. You can upgrade it where it builds up faster, right? So you've got all of this kind of progression built around that, built into elements and all that type of thing. So with that and the amazing wealth of weapon types that are in the game, like, it's not gonna be Monster Hunter levels. Like, Monster Hunter weapon design is just, oh, it's beautiful. Like, it's one of the most beautiful things in like looter games. It's just so good. How the different weapon types are so varied that you're better off just picking one and mastering it. This doesn't quite hit that, but it hints into it, right? Because the more you play with a sword or an axe or a hammer, the more proficient you kind of become with the timing of it. There are upgrades that work with the timing of the combo. So the better you are at timing each individual attack, the more effective you are and the faster you kill. So it's just like Monster Hunter in that fact that if you get good with a weapon, that's good and that's fun. But the progression elements that go along with that don't really shine in the early game, if you know what I mean, right? So you've got bleed damage from physical, you've got toxin damage where you can poison enemies, you got earth damage, you got all these elements, and you've got this chart of these 25 attributes that you can level up. Now the cool thing is you can level these up and you can unlevel them or allocate them if you're struggling with a boss or something, right? All these little things like damage or stats or special attacks, and you can pull them out, you can put them in. The thing is, it's not really that impactful early game. Now, I'm gonna cover this again once I get into late game, right? But right now, it's not really that impactful. And the reason it's not that impactful is because of the gear. The way the gear works is the more difficult you play the game on, which I've been trying to do, the better the gear you get. But even the gear you get, every now and then you get a legendary or an epic, but it's so specific to those items, kind of in a way Path of Exile is, where it's almost better to wait till you get a legendary drop or something like that, see what attributes are on it, and then build around it. So there's not really a lot of build diversity early on when you don't have the epic or legendary gear with the attributes to start building onto that, right? So there's not as much choice as you would think there is if you want to create a good build, because you don't have the gear to do it. And that's the thing. Now, combat. Again, I'm going to be a hypocrite here because I really like the combat. There's one thing I don't like about the combat, right? So this prides itself on being a looter slasher. Looter slasher essentially means there are no guns, bro. No grenade launchers, no assault rifles, none of that. All you get is a sword, an axe, and whatever other melee weapon you can find. The thing is, a lot of the bosses, and this is irritating, but I still enjoy it, right? A lot of the bosses have zoning attacks. And while that does add to the difficulty, I think it adds to the difficulty in a not great way, right? Because you can only melee the bosses. And when the boss is like dropping fire at its feet, it doesn't feel difficult as much as it feels tedious, because you do have range attacks, right? Like for instance, with almost any weapon, you can throw your shield and it'll deal a certain amount of damage. It has a long cooldown of about a minute, but you can throw it when a boss is zoning you out. The other thing is, there are certain weapons you can throw, like one of the heavier swords. If you use your alternate attack, which is called your southern technique, you can throw the sword and deal damage. The thing is, these things take time to recharge if you even have them available. And when the boss is zoning you out, it doesn't make the boss more difficult as much as it just extends the fight, where you just have to back up, let that boss finish casting that spell, and then start dealing your damage again, which, I gotta be honest, doesn't really add a lot to the game, especially when there isn't a whole lot of ranged attacks in the game. So for instance, if there was a bow and arrow, and I'm gonna look really stupid as if there is one in game, if you did have access to a bow and arrow and you could switch to that, you could deal small amounts of chip damage while you were zoned out by the boss, but that doesn't really seem to be the case, right? And I think that pulls away from the experience a little bit, and that's something they should probably look at if the boss is going to be constantly zoning you out like that. I can think of one boss that's casting a spell and I literally had to stop fighting. A few more things. Map design. Whew. Now this one's rough because the maps are very, very pretty graphically, but there isn't a lot to offer. It seems like it's not that linear. Like whenever you go into these realms, you've got different realms for different elements. You got like an earth realm, you've got like a water realm, wind, etc., etc. When you enter these realms, they aren't really open world. They're like these zones that have multiple paths, but the paths just kind of spider web out, right? It's not like you're going down a specific path and then you can flank the enemy, or you can choose this path because it's got more loot or whatever. Essentially what you end up doing is either going straight to the boss or walking around and trying to find chests, doing different unlocks. Now, this is where things get a little biased, right? And I always tell you guys when I'm being biased, I'm not that type of person. I'm not a chest opening person. So for me, this slowed the game down. But for you guys want to go open chests or do other stuff, that might be what you're into. Just for me personally, I just want to go to the boss fight, and I feel like I'm being forced to do these kind of side things because they are important to you progressing and getting the resources to build new stuff and upgrade your gear. And if you're not doing that, your character isn't really progressing. So again, the game feels a little padded there, I think, right? So that's what I think about it. It hurts my soul because I'm enjoying this game. Like, I'm telling you, if this game were to drop down under like 30 bucks, I would be recommending this game to you guys non-stop. 25 bucks, even 20. At 20, let me tell you something. I will come to your house and stuff $20 bills down your thong. $20 bills down your thong if this game was $20 and I would want you to play it. But at $60 or whatever full price this is at, I can't do it. But, you know, you can watch me play it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Godfall. I'm going to be making more videos for this and uploading more gameplay, so be on the lookout for that in the future. And get that thong ready for the sales that are coming up.